All of the prophets or messengers of God have come with the same message, that our purpose in life is to worship God alone without any partners. The first commandment in the book of Exodus, mentioned in chapter 20, and the first commandment in the 10 Commandments mentioned in the book of Deuteronomy, is no different than the commandment mentioned in the New Testament in Mark chapter 12, and it's no different than the commandment mentioned in the Quran in Surah An-Nisa chapter 4. All of these have one single message: do not set up partners with Almighty Allah in worship. Rather, worship Him alone, with no other gods beside Him. The quote from the Old Testament says, more or less in English, "Thou shalt not have any other gods beside me." In the New Testament, the quote is, "Know, O Israel, the Lord your God is one Lord. You have to worship Him or love Him with all your heart, all your mind, and all your strength." And in the Quran, in Surah 4, we find that God says that He will not forgive anyone to set up partners with Him in worship. But anything less than this, He can forgive. This is the message that was brought with all of the prophets to all of the mankind over the centuries after century after century. While there may be certain modifications that Allah has made to some of the other commandments, yet that we find no difference of opinion, that the monotheistic faiths agree. God is one, and you shall worship Him alone, without any other gods beside Him. Now, we've been discussing Islam and introducing its relationship to the other two monotheistic religions of Judaism and Christianity. Let us explore some of the other comparisons between these three faiths. And keep in mind that I'm going to be presenting this from the Muslim perspective. It means that there may be differences in opinions here, but this is from the point of view of Islam and the Muslims. The first comparison that we would draw is one where we would all agree, as I've already mentioned, that God is one, and He has a purpose for what He has created, and that He communicates with His creation through His prophets. Another interesting comparison is that all three of the monotheistic faiths make the claim that Almighty God has created everything in the universe in 6 days, yom, or period of time. The word yom in Arabic is the same as the word yom in Hebrew, and it means day or period of time. The difference would be that Islam teaches that God did not rest on the seventh day, but rather after He completed everything, He rose above His throne and established Himself there. Whereas in the Bible it mentions that on the seventh day God rested. Some may find this to be a big difference. Others may say that there's hardly any difference at all. But again, we're making these comparisons. Another comparison is, taught by all three faiths, that God began the creation of a human being from a single soul, Adam. And his name is Adam to the Christians, to the Jews, and to the Muslims. The exact same name, Adam. From Adam came his mate, Eve, or Hawa as she is called in Arabic, taken from a bone from the side of Adam, and then God giving life to her and making them as mates, man and wife, in the paradise. Another comparison. There is another character in the story called the devil, or Lucifer, or Iblis, or Shaitan, or Satan, who comes to Adam and to Eve to tempt them to disobey Almighty Allah. Now we come to a very important difference between Islam and the other two monotheistic faiths of Judaism and Christianity, and that is the role of the devil, or the shaitan, or Satan. First of all, in Islam, the devil is not a fallen angel. In fact, there is a creation before human beings, and they are called the jinn. The jinn are unlike angels. Angels are made from light, but the jinn are made from a smokeless fire, and this is according to the Quran itself. From the jinn comes one who at one time used to worship Allah. He even was reinforced with angels to fight against the other evil ones. But then he himself became evil when he refused to obey Allah, and this was upon the creation of Adam himself. When Allah created Adam, He ordered all of creation to bow down because He had created the best of His creations. However, from the jinn, this particular one refused to bow down. He refused because of his pride, and he asserted that he was better than Adam. After all, he said, I am created from a smokeless fire, whereas Adam is created from dirt or clay. So because he refused to bow down, he became the one who's most despised. This explains the origin of the devil according to Islam. It also explains why we don't see him, because he's made from a smokeless fire. When the devil refused to obey Allah, he knew his place would be ultimately in the hellfire. Yet he asked Allah, let me take Adam and his children, all of them, to hell with me. Allah gave him the opportunity to try to take as many as he could, and says in the Quran, but you will never take those who have the true belief and try their best to submit in Islam. From this, we understand the devil has his free choices to do as he wills, but he has no power. He can only whisper. He can only try to influence. It's still up to the human being to choose whether or not to listen and submit to the devil, or listen and submit to Almighty Allah. Another similarity, that in this paradise, God has ordered for Adam and Eve to enjoy anything in the paradise except one simple commandment. Do not eat from a particular tree. Do not eat the fruit of this tree. And of course, the devil then comes to tempt them, to encourage them to do so, to eat from this tree, which ultimately they do. As a result, they lose their status in paradise, and they go out away down to the earth. And this is similar in all three of the monotheistic faiths.